This is IBM Museum. It is February the 1st, and I have my Pan-African IBM t-shirt on. Kicking off the month. Hopefully on this schedule, a video every day like I've been doing. And we're having a Skycam over the top of the IBM PS2 Model 77 with the Lacuna planar. So normally that's identified as a 77i, the I being for IDE. I'm going to open up the system. We're going to take some look inside of it. I plan to actually tear down the unit and clean it out. I don't know if I'm going to do that on this video or where I have the benefit of the natural lighting during the daytime, because that might be a longer video as well. But we'll crack the case at least and look at some of the plans that I have. And I also want to talk about some of the plans or what I'm going to have coming up in videos, because I did have other items that came in today besides the IBM t-shirt that I'm wearing. And so let's kick it off, and I'll leave the regular webcam going so we can see the background here, but I'm going to use the top of the Model 77 as a display case, or a display area for some of the items. And this is the RAM that came in for and that's that PC 133. It has the one keyway kind of hidden below that anesthetic wrapping, but that is for the NetVista PC. And I'm going to have to go through and modify the case of that as well. I'll do the physical modification. There's some other aspects to that's transpired that I'll cover in that video. So that will be one video coming up, and gain that RAM in there to get the system in a more capable state. And then this is a new planar, and it's actually even on a metal tray. And this is complete. It has the CPU already installed on the heatsink, and even the RAM memory that came stock on that unit. These are 1 gigabyte modules here for the 2 gigabyte of the system. And through the static wrapper, I'm not going to open the static wrapper right now, but that is for the XP system that we had trouble with the installation, and where it was blue screening. So I have a new motherboard complete for that unit that we're going to swap out that other motherboard. I mean, I was even having trouble installing MS-DOS on the system. It was going through and giving read errors on, and not even able to boot from diskette, the Microsoft authentic diskettes, although I could get my boot diskette otherwise to boot from that. So there's something that is happening. I would go through and I would see some freeze ups later on if I tried to access things like the hard drive, and I actually believe it was the Southbridge chip here that's not under a heatsink, and this is cooler. This runs the slower components of the Southbridge. The Northbridge is that unit that we put the thermal paste on under this large heatsink here. And I'm just going to leave these. I'm not going to go through and try and go underneath them to apply the thermal paste. These actually look brand new. And I mean, I'll go through and examine things like the capacitors can leak and stuff like that, even with no power applied. But it's brand new. There's probably no mileage on this planar at all. So that's going to be one of the other things as we go through and swap out that planer and go through that XP reinstallation and trying to get even it to get it registered online, to go through that verification process to with Microsoft over the phone to show that. So that's another video that's coming up, and I've gone through and at least exposed where I have the planer and riser I pulled out as reference points as we get inside this. Now, one of the other things I'm going to do once I get the system going, I'm going to use it as a little bit of a test bed. And we remember these from the NCR system. We have the CPU that we ended up putting on that NCR 3220, and that's the 5x86 CPU. That's a 486 class that runs at 133 megahertz. We have the Blue Lightning. This is a 486 DX2 66 megahertz that we couldn't get operating in that system because it doesn't have that overdrive processor pin, that inside pin. And we're, of course, on this CPU, we're able to do the override jumper, learn how that was functional. And then the Trinity works, and this actually does have an overdrive pin on it underneath this protective anti-static foam. But this did not start up on the NCR model as well for the default settings. So I'm going to experiment a little bit more and see if the socket on this Model 77 will work to run this chip. And this is also a 46 class run at 133 megahertz, and it's got all those nice jumper settings and things like that as well. It's just it's comparable to the Evergreen Technologies upgrade. So I want to kind of compare these. It's effectively the same chip that's underneath these. And the other stuff here will as I bump the SkyCam and get it wobbling. It's out of focus anyway. Okay. And that's why I say that the daylight may be a little bit better for some of this. And I loosened the 2 screws on the back. And just pull that cover forward. I've cleaned up the case a little bit. And we are inside, so I just want to make sure that my OCD, that we're all aligned here and everything. And of course we have kind of a mass of cables here. We'll look at the adapters first that are in here. And with that, we'll get some of the cabling out of the way to kind of see down inside. And we do have the reference of the planer over here being underneath this. Now, one of the things that really I'll go through when this logic lock assembly, it's barely visible here, and I could maybe show, well, I don't know if you can see the blue color, and this lever actually fell forward. But with the case cover off, and this is for both the Model 77 and 76, as well as the 9556 and 9557. It's called the Logic Lock. And you have it out of the case cover off, or it's somewhat exposed. It can cause the system not to run because that's an interlock switch. And there's a way to go through and bypass that switch as well, because if you try and push that interlock up with the case cover off, it may pop back down as you're going through and you're, focusing your infrared gun on the CPU that's in there to get the temperature. That thing may shut the system down. We don't want that. So on the top here, we have, of the adapters, we have the feature domain, and IBM even rebranded this as they call this the Patriot adapter. But it's a feature domain SCSI adapter, has the conventional high density DB50 connector out the back for external SCSI devices. And then internally, this cable here, I've got this connected to the CD-ROM and that iOmega drive, zip drive that's in these drive bays, the 5 1/4 bays. So let's go through and slide the Patriot adapter out of the way. Just kind of give a little bit more exposure. There's the underside of it, of course. Just to see how that shows up on camera. Okay. And then here we have the sound piper, as it's labeled here. Don't know how much the webcam can to get on the focus of that, but that is the sound card, and this is the cable that ties it into the audio panel that's on the front of the unit, with the volume control and headphone and microphone jacks for the sound. And it's got a speaker back here underneath this grill as well. So that is the two adapters that we have in the system as we went through on the system information tool for the previous video. Okay, and then here you have the SIMs, and these are nice little SIMs for the Lacuna planer, and the previous owner had these in there as well, and each of these are 16 megabytes, so it's a total of 64 megabyte of RAM that's on the planer here. And let me see. I didn't know if I really wanted to pull the riser support out of there. I will when I clean this unit. We can probably just work around that until then, as long as we get some of the cables off to the side away from, so we can kind of see under this. So we do have drive power connections on the power supply. It's right under here for the Lacuna planer. It connects up to these points here. And then, of course, the riser connection. And this model, as I showed before, it does have the IDE for the hard drive. Now, I actually plan, while we're focused also on adapters, I guess, I can start showing some of the things I have planned. And some of this is almost a little bit of unboxing. This is what IBM called the Corvette, and I don't have this in a static bag inside here, but that's the Corvette adapter, SCSI adapter. And I've thought of putting this in place of this future domain SCSI card. Beyond being, this is a 32-bit adapter that can run in the system, and it'll give a better performance for the things if I go through and switch out to like a SCSI hard drive. And there is, for the internal connectors, there's the fast wide connector that's a little bit unique for the IBM mulls. And then it has also the edge connector of that for that SCSI adapter, which is a bit unique as well. And for like the internal cables I have here that I could put in, this is, so that goes on that and gives you the regular 50-pin connectors that I could have for the devices. And there's others than internal cables as well. Set that off to the side as I go through them. Okay. And here's another nice cable for these instances too. That's rolled and a little bit better for routing through the system. Doesn't really restrict your airflow, and has the connections for those 50-pin devices, SCSI devices. And then okay, so this is one that I could do if I just had a fast wide hard drive connected to it, single device, and I could go through and I'd want to connect on that or have a fast wide hard drive for better performance. More pins available to the drive, twice the bus width of the SCSI bus. The limitation being that is a single device cable. So there is this cable that's also the fast wide interface and has more device connections there. Has the 3 device connections that I would need. Typically this on the end with that little short length, that's for actually a terminator. Or you have the fast wide hard drive on the end of it being the terminating device at the end of the cable, because you don't want signal reflections. The reason that SCSI devices need terminators is that signals come down the ribbon cable and they're actually reflected at the end of it. So they need a resistance to absorb those signals, and that's the nature of termination of the SCSI bus. Of course, with the fast wide connectors, I would have to have adapters with the conventional 50-pin devices. But I do have some of those around. I think there's only one mull that I've seen with the fast wide connector, a plexer SCSI drive. So this would probably be a good candidate cable for me with that Corvette adapter in place of the future domain. And I'll probably clean the system first and then go through and kind of build it from there. And of course, if I swap the hard drives, that's reloading everything as well. And I want to get that sound piper. I don't have plans swap out the sound piper. That's a good sound card. It just may be in the case where I put this Corvette in there as the adapter, the SCSI adapter on that system. And I even may go through, once I have that IDE freed from the hard drive, to go through and swap that zip drive back in there as on the IDE connection. And since that's a less performance to the IDE interface in SCSI, and a good use for that IDE to run that if it has to. Now this is all the diskette drive cabling here. And as I pointed out earlier with the power supplies, okay, and I guess I'm not really scripted here. I probably need to go back as I haven't covered all the aspects to the SCSI adapter that I was going to. Very unscripted here. So I can probably set that box. I need to keep track a little bit better of where I'm going. Now this is the external cable for the strange, IBM connector of the SCSI interface, and these are just 50-pin interfaces externally. It's not a fast wide, which is even a different connector. In fact, I need to find out, because this might be the I'll need to find out if I have. Yeah, this is even the fast wide connector on the the exterior, or is it? Yeah, it's a little bit wider. And so I'll have to find the cable for external cable for that, and I probably just plan on using regular SCSI out there. So this is the box with the terminator that this came in, and it's even got the little feedback card from IBM. And to an address in New Jersey. No postage necessary for whenever this card came out. Okay, since I get a little bit more on track with how I've got stacked, there's a little bit of unboxing for adapters I need to add, because I likely want to go through and add a Ethernet interface to get this unit connected in to my network. There's some good adapters there from 3Com. These are the Etherlink 3C529 adapters. And that has the nice TP connector plus the AUI for the just old school, very old school Ethernet with where you had to have the AUI module to convert that over to any other interface, a media converter. These are good adapters. I may put one of those in. I have I have a few of these around. This is even still boxed. This is a lesser version of the. I guess this is from SMC, and IBM did even rebrand some of these with the tabs. I've got a couple here out of the box. Like that one has an IBM on the tab, and it's got the boot ROM on there, and I need to run that through the EEPROM reader and save that away. And this is just the 10 base 2 connector and that transceiver port as well. And then this one has the this version has the TP connection instead of the 10 base 2, and doesn't have the boot ROM to that. But that's another nice basic adapter. These are 16-bit, and the other ones, at least, they have the ability to run in 16-bit systems, microchannel, but it's a 32-bit. And then also in the box, and I had to check these boxes earlier because I have a lot of these in systems, and this was one of the rare, they advertise this as up to 100 megabit per second, even though this the performance of this adapter is not really, it's not going to sustain the 100 megabit cable connection. That's tight in there. It's an Olicom adapter, and these are even still sold. I still see these listed on eBay quite a bit. I would think that you're better off to just once I get this opened. See there, it's I have all the diskettes for it, booklet, put on the adapter tab. But this is just a 16-bit microchannel interface for, supposedly being something that supports 100 megabits. And then when you have the 3-COM adapter, these are good solid boards, and that's 32-bit bus there. For just these are 10 megabit adapters. Anything with kind of a hint out there for networking cards. If you ever see the transceiver port on there, that DB15 means that is no faster than 10 megabit per second, because these transceivers, that's all the speed that they handled. I think they had a dual port version of these, but these are always mean that the adapter itself is 10 megabit per second, no faster at all, even if it has that TP port on there. And so I went through and at least had to reorganize myself on getting ahead, and didn't see all the adapters I had queued up. And that's something else that we could do, even though it's been done before by on the SIF news group, to kind of compare how these network adapters perform. But it would be possible to compare the performance of these various adapters, just to see how they stack up against each other in performance, and see just how much truly that is a 100 megabit per second adapter as advertised. Okay, I think I'll pop the Corvette out of here just to get this future domain adapter. And I'll still have to tear this down and clean it up. The back for pulling off the riser, there's screws here. There's also two below this back cover, so you have to pull this back cover off, and just be careful with these plastic pieces being so brittle. And I think for this video, I'm just not going to pull the riser out of there, and hopefully with what we have, these cables are going to get quite a bit in the way. See, there's even another IDE connection right there. Went to that IDE interface of the zip drive before. But this would be one of the processors or CPUs in that comparison as well when I go through these of that Pentium, that Pod 83, runs at 83 megahertz. And then it's this Lacuna has that L2 cache socket as well. And you can run the cache in, let's go through. I'm trying to think of which, okay, the release is on that side. And again, general. Yeah, and I'm not even able to easily get out of that but that has a jumper for either right back or right through performance. And that might be a good comparison to see how that stacks up on each other. Now this socket 3 it does have a voltage regulator module that's possible here. With the 5 volt CPU, it's just a matter of using 3 jumpers in there to make that a 5 volt socket. And all the CPUs I have here, if they're a lower voltage, they have the voltage regulator on the board for the chip. So I can test all these in this socket. And the nice thing with that zero insertion force socket, just lift the lever and to get it in there. But that's that L2 cache connector here. This is the IDE, as I pointed out before. This is actually for the diskette drive. And that cable having a lot, having, besides the A cable connection, having 2 more connections in there. And it's even common for putting the electronic eject 5 1/4 in one of those bays as well. And I have a couple of those drives around. I need to address those on the internal diskette video that I said I was probably going to get to soon, several videos ago, quite a ways back. And I need to get that going and work on that as well. Now, and if I don't pull that riser out, there's not really a good way to, this is the logic lock connection. And I even have to look at it on this model because that's 8 pins in there. I was used to the 6 pin on the 9556 and 9557, and that is easily jumpered. You just put jumpers on the outside pins. With the 8 pin, I may have to go through and study this a little bit more, get out a voltmeter to, yeah, and I don't know if I can, well, there's even contacts in there. Maybe for the daylight teardown, I can get the pin out of that a little bit more, because I want to test in the closed condition to find out what pins it jumpers. It's got a loop back on that end piece, but there'd be other wires there that need to be jumpered to ultimately just to bypass that. You put jumpers in those on those pins of that socket, just so you don't have to have that logic lock in place and worry about the aspect of there being an interlock. Get that back in there on the keyway, and I want to see how we're doing for time. I've kind of just gone so far off the cuff here. Yeah, we're not doing too bad. 35 minutes. So that might be the thing of even though I covered a little bit of this and mostly a lot of the adapters as it is of what I got planned for this system, to do the daylight, where I can have my digital camera that I'll just shoot short segments, and then I have to actually put that through an editor program to all the clips I made, assemble them in the right sequence, and do that. And that is very time consuming. That's why I prefer normally to do these off the cuff, where I can just connect up a couple webcams to for the purpose of doing a video, and then once the video is complete, all I have to worry about is doing an upload. So that's the basics of inside the Model 77, and I'll at some later video as well, I'll show the other Model 76 and 77 type called the Bermuda planer, how, what the similarities and what the differences are between those two model types. Because if you hear about a Model 76 or Model 77 being sold, you have to determine what version it is of the two, since that can be two different planer types, and so that'll be a comparison video I can do later on. So, and I've had a long, busy day, a lot of moving stuff around. I've had my mind off in other places to just lose track in the video when I'm covering adapters and continue on. But I think the next video I'm going to get in here and clean the rust spots out there, and just clean the inside of the unit a little bit more, kind of decide the direction that I'm going to go. The nice thing is I can add that Corvette in there, SCSI adapter, and just keep the hard drive on the IDE interface for the moment. Connect on those the CD-ROM and the zip drive, and then as I kind of search around in my hard drive stash and find a suitable SCSI fast-wide SCSI fast-wide drive that I can use with the system, and then kind of determine how I'm going to go through. I've got Windows 95 disk. That's probably the level I'll go with for reinstalling on this system, but that's the plans that I have for this system, is to get that networking adapter on there, and to get that SCSI adapter called the Corvette on there for a little bit faster interface, and just up the performance a little bit of as much as I can with this. So if you like this off-the-cuff video, please click on that like button, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Recommend it to your friends as well. Just say, hey, you got to get over there and check out what this guy, his videos, they're warts. He has warts and all in the videos, and he may go off topic and just prattle on about something, or he may have a power supply that finally sparks and blows up on him, but there are things that are happening on his channel. I like the content he's providing. And certainly give me that feedback in the comments if you can as well. I really appreciate seeing comments and responding to every comment that I have posted on my videos. Try and come up with an answer, even to say that, hey, I don't know. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.